Hey, what's up guys, my name is Manga Artist, and today, I'm feeling more happy than I usually am. I just had one of those days where, while there was nothing really happening to be happy about, I just felt so calm and fuzzy inside. I wasn't exactly feeling the best over the past few weeks as school is still a thing, my social anxiety is through the roof, and I was sick throughout the majority of the Easter holidays, which really annoyed me as I was going to a Comic-Con that exact same weekend. But over the past few days, I've been feeling great. Life is going easy on me right now, and I've been a lot more productive than I've been in a very long time. I'm constantly drawing, I'm always writing scripts, I'm getting a lot of rest, and I'm caught up on almost all of my schoolwork. So, yeah, I'm having a pretty positive outlook on life right now. And to keep this going for a little longer, I've decided that I should make a video that's 100% positive. Just me talking about stuff I love dearly and praise lots of different things in one video. Since I always had a passion for entertainment, I think the best thing for me to talk about is media that I find to be great. However, I'm just gonna stick with 5 things I love for each category as this video would be way too long. So let's start off on the right foot with my favorite movies. Alien. I'm an absolute pussy when it comes to horror movies, and while I was scared for most of this film, I was also completely awestruck because of how beautiful this movie is. This film was made in 1979, and yet was still able to do effects that even modern movies can't replicate. The use of sets, props, and practical effects was done with so much planning and care that it made every scene in this film stand out, even when nothing was really happening, which made the scenes involving the xenomorph so terrifying that you can't look away. That chest burster will always be one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen. And this movie was one of the only horror movies where I felt something when one of the characters died. You actually get to know a good bit about each character, and the scenes where they're all just together talking to each other are very heartwarming and give them a lot of personality. It's beautifully paced, the horror is super effective, and this movie shows that practical effects should never be replaced with CGI. There's just some things that work when it's actually there and not generated by a computer. Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. This movie was just a blast to watch. It captured that feeling Dragon Ball gives off to a T. I just felt like a little kid when I watched this film. It has the perfect balance of the great comedy and adrenaline-filled action Dragon Ball is so well known for, with a villain that's actually pretty good. Beerus was easily my favorite part of this movie. He was laid back, unpredictable, and his lines were so damn funny. Yes, his reasons for wanting to destroy Earth is dumb beyond belief, but that's the kind of dumb you expect from Dragon Ball, which just makes it really funny. This movie also holds some of the best character moments ever. Vegeta's rage after Beerus hits Bulma, Goku and Vegeta swallowing their pride, Goku turning Super Saiyan while shouting probably the most bone-chilling scream ever. God, this movie was awesome! And the animation. Holy fucking shit. Aside from the movie using some terrible CGI for like 3 seconds, there was not one frame of this movie that didn't look gorgeous. The fights are super energetic and pack a massive punch, the transformations are beautiful, and the comedy is perfectly executed. This is easily the best Dragon Ball movie ever. Zootopia. 2016 was a pretty lackluster year for animated films, but luckily Disney was working their hardest and gave us my favorite buddy cop movie so far. Not only is the detail in the animation and the world so fucking good, but this movie has easily my favorite duo, period. Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde share wonderful chemistry, the kind of chemistry only the best of friends have. Like taking pleasure in the other's misery while also being very supportive for each other. They're just so fun to watch, and the back and forths they have throughout this movie are just priceless. They don't even end up getting together in the end. That's a move that I'm so glad Disney didn't do, because them being together honestly would have just ruined it. This is also the first Disney movie to do a crime drama with the comedy being quite sidelined. The comedy is still there, and while it's really damn funny, it never took over. This was a movie that wanted to tell a story about a mystery case while also sprinkling in a theme of racism that isn't too forced, and it did it with great success. My only nitpick I have is that the villain was really weak. It was one of those villains that were meant to be seen as the good guys throughout the majority of the film but turn evil when the movie is basically over, which I didn't really like. But overall, this is a fantastic movie that gives off a good message, has brilliant characters, and has great comedy with many emotional scenes. Easily one of Disney's finest. Oh my, it's working! How to Train Your Dragon. While Disney and Pixar are companies that are way more consistent in quality movies, when DreamWorks get their films right, they create art. I was very conflicted on whether I should have put this movie or Kung Fu Panda in the spot, as they were both amazing in their own ways, but personally, How to Train Your Dragon just had a much bigger impact on me. From the very first shot of this movie, I was invested. There was never any point in this film that ever took me out of the immersion this movie gave me. I loved the setting, I loved the different personalities of the characters, and I adored the design of the world. Hiccup, I believe, is a very good main character. He's very flawed, but he uses his flaws he has to maximum effect, which made me really like him. He also has a really good bond with Toothless, a creature that if I saw in real life I would hug it, it's so cute! Toothless himself is a brilliant silent protagonist with great expressions and a loyalty to Hiccup that can rival a dog. But most importantly, this movie's visuals are perfect. This stuff is 3D animation at its best. The flying scenes are very exciting and gave me a great rush of adrenaline. The backgrounds are beautifully colorful and look almost real, they're so detailed. And the action is very well choreographed with some blood-pumpingly intense moments. I sure hope that the third movie keeps up the brilliant quality of these films, but if the last two tell me anything, I have a lot of hope it will succeed. The Land Before Time. I watched this movie when I was very little and I remembered really enjoying it. And now when I watched it again as a 17-year-old, I can now appreciate this film in all of its glory. This movie was able to tell a story of a child going through loss, depression, hope, anger, and facing his greatest fears all in the span of an hour and 10 minutes. And holy shit, what a journey it was. This movie can be downright depressing at times, and for a kid's movie, that's pretty rare, and I really liked that this movie was not subtle about the idea of death. When Littlefoot's mother dies, she dies and doesn't come back. She may speak to Littlefoot spiritually throughout the film, but honestly, I think that's Littlefoot still not getting over the fact that she is gone, which just makes this all the more tragic. People say the moment where they cried was when Littlefoot's mother dies on screen, but for me, the scenes that made me almost tear up were the scenes after his mother dies. Look at the expression of horrid realization on this dinosaur's face when he realizes that the thing he thought was his mother was just his shadow. I think my heartstrings just got torn in two. But even though this movie is really sad, there are still some moments in this movie that are funny, heartwarming, and filled with charm. I think the friendship that Littlefoot builds between his friends, especially his friendship with Sarah, are very well paced and feel very genuine. And my god, this animation is just so beautiful. This dark but fascinating world the dinosaurs live in is so atmospheric, with washed out colors in the backgrounds, the multiple cracks in the ground, everything being dead or almost dying, and the gorgeous Great Valley makes this movie a work of art. The intense urgency of the chases with the T-Rex are very good at showing how massive the T-Rex really is, while showing how hopeless and panicked the main characters are. The brilliant climax involving a great plan with a very good death scene, and that wonderful ending is why The Land Before Time was, and still is, my favorite movie to this day. I love a good TV show as much as the next person, so here are my 5 favorites. Sonic SatAM. This show was very good at taking the usual super fun and happy video game series and turning it into a dark show about the world basically ending and Sonic and the Freedom Fighters for 10 years having to get it back piece by piece, like an apocalypse story that has a tiny ounce of hope. It was a very good story, with the only thing lacking in it was the bullshit ending. I think what made me like this show so much was the relationships the characters have with each other. The Freedom Fighters were characters that we'd never seen before, so the creators didn't have to base them off anything and gave them distinct personalities. I think the relationship Sonic and Sally have is quite cute and nicely paced, and the brotherly love Sonic has with Tails is beyond adorable. Also, Uncle Chuck is best uncle. Am I the only one that thinks Julia White is the best voice actor for Sonic? He just has this charisma when he's voicing Sonic, and the super cheesy yet cocky voice suits this Sonic perfectly, making him a very memorable character. Not to mention that the animation is actually really damn good. It was kinda stilted in places, but it was never too bad to take me out of the show. I love the moments where fast-paced action is taking place, series, solely because I think the animation is so flowing and so well planned that it makes the scenes very memorable. They even managed to turn Eggman, a fat scientist that uses animals to make robots, into a legit scary villain. Every time he's on screen, you can just see how much pleasure he gets from all this chaos, from his expressions, his movement, and that fucking amazing voice.
A nice dream, but dreams are meant to be broken. It seems that little Sonic is now just your average hedgehog. Dispatch a SWAT team and make sure he's finished. Oh, and turn that one into a worker bot.
Jim Cummings, I fucking love you. While I didn't like how the show ended, I can still say that Sonic SatAM is a very solid show, and I had a blast watching it from beginning to end. It's just a shame that Season 3 got cancelled.
If you're evil and you're on the rise, you can count on the four of us taking you down, cause we're good and evil.
Steven Universe. This was a kid's show I honestly didn't expect to like so much. I was introduced to it by a friend who made me watch all the episodes while skipping some of the horrible filler. The first season, I will admit, is really fucking bad, but after Jailbreak, this show gets a massive step up in quality. Yes, the animation is still all over the place and there are times when the plot grinds to a massive fucking halt, but when Steven Universe is good, it's really damn good. I think the characters are great, the development they have is wonderful, the plot is very interesting, and the songs are all very memorable. Stronger Than You and It's Over Isn't It are two very good examples. I know that this show has way too many flaws to count, but god damn it, I just like it way too much to care. Give it a watch if you haven't seen it. It's worth a shot. Dragon Ball. Now I'm not talking about Dragon Ball Z, even though that's still a very good show. I'm talking about the anime that started it all. This anime was just the most fun show I've ever watched. It has childish but very effective comedy, the action scenes are amazingly choreographed and focuses a lot more on martial arts and pure skill, something that Z threw completely out the window, and I got to really like the characters. They all had a different personality and every character just works so well off each other that it makes for some very heartwarming scenes. It's also the show where the Dragon Balls were actually the driving force for much of the plot, and every arc was a new adventure to try get them, with each one being more memorable than the last. I even found the Pilaf gang, despite how useless they were, to be very funny and great recurring villains. Though my favorite villain and arc definitely goes to the King Piccolo saga. That arc was so dark and gave Goku a very good character arc. While not being as flashy as Z, Dragon Ball was an amazing action show that had a very good amount of comedy. Personally, it's Dragon Ball at its core. Gravity Falls. This show is just amazing in all of the right ways. Everything from the well-structured world, a very dark undertone, the admittedly very funny and creepy villain, the amazing development each character has, besides one, and my sweet Jesus, the writing is just flawless. Every time I watch this show, there's like 10 jokes and references I get that went completely over my head on the first viewing, making every watch of Gravity Falls so good. The thing that makes me prefer this show over Steven Universe is not only is the pacing of the plot 10 times better, but even when there was no overarching story, the episodes were so entertaining. Seriously, the conversations that these characters have with each other just comes across as so natural that you think the producers just gave the voice actors guidelines and just let them wing it from there. Every character has some kind of arc that they go through in at least one time in an episode, and it always warms my heart when a character is able to overcome their fears and grow as people. Dipper, I think, is the best example of what I'm talking about. From the start of the first episode to the end of the last episode, he goes through so many arcs that he's almost like a completely different person when it's all over. And it's not even like he changes in just one episode. His development was so beautifully paced that it made him easily my favorite character in the show, and I could relate to him so fucking much. And oh my god, these visuals. This has got to be some of the most bizarre, visually pleasing, and weird animation I've ever seen in my life. This show took the supernatural nature and the brilliant mystery of Gravity Falls and cranked it up to 1,000,000. Every single detail in this world never seems ordinary, with creatures that are beautifully weird, backgrounds that always have something wrong with them, whether it be big or small, and my god, the final episodes are like a horrible LSD trip and I love it. Alex Hirsch hit an absolute goldmine in this show, and with a satisfying ending, he's created a show that will stand the face of time as being the show that broke the boundaries of kids' entertainment. The first 25 episodes of this anime are just perfect. I can see literally nothing wrong with them. It's binge-worthy television at its absolute peak. The thing that made this anime so strong for me was the whole cat and mouse chase Ellen Light Yagami had throughout the majority of the show. They were characters that had perfectly understandable motivations, and I was never 100% on any character's side, as both of their motivations had massive gaping holes in them. But that's what makes this anime so good. The characters were just so complex and interesting that I never cared when one started acting evil, as it seemed so natural with their character. Light's journey to kill L takes so many twists and turns, and always left me on the edge of my seat when a massive thing happened right before the episode ended, making me always want to jump right into the next chapter of the story, which is a thing that Death Note was way too good at for its own good. The only problem I had with this show was the drop in quality after episode 25. But the thing is that the episodes after 25 were still really good. It's just that the first 25 episodes were so perfect that it was bound to happen no matter what they did. It was a roller coaster ride of emotions, and it is an anime that I would recommend anyone to watch. It is a work of anime art, and it deserves to be experienced firsthand. As much as I would like to say that I'm a very avid reader, my level of book reading is rather small, so making this part of the video was pretty easy. Beast Quest by Adam Blade. These are a series of books that are aimed for very young kids. I'm talking like 8 years old and down. But god damn it, I really enjoyed these books. They are stories that are consisted of 6 books per saga, and almost every saga ends on a cliffhanger until the next few books are out. It really was a series made solely to make a lot of money, but the way the author tells his stories are so lighthearted and fun, I personally didn't care owning like 50 of them. Every story is more fun and interesting than the last, and Adam Blade can get seriously creative with his visions of the monsters. There are some parts of this series where it feels a little like filler, but the next book nearly always gets back on track with its quality. The world's very interesting, the beasts themselves are pretty cool, the writing is simplistic and easy to understand, and I actually like the chemistry the two main characters have. This series is a massive guilty pleasure for me, though I would highly recommend these books to read to your kids or a young cousin. The Witches by Roald Dahl. This book for me is Roald Dahl at his most sadistic. I was extremely lucky to grow up in a family that adored Roald Dahl, and this book always held a special place in my heart. I really loved how over the top and wacky the witches were in this story. They just had so much energy and passion for killing kids that while it's still really dark for a kid's book, the way that it was written was very entertaining. Especially their plan to kill all the children of England. It's so dumb and creative, I love it. And I absolutely adored the grandmother in this book. She's your typical insane old woman who warns her grandson about mythical creatures out for his blood while also convincing him to start smoking. You know, the usual. This book was an extremely good read from cover to cover, and it's a story that may seem lighthearted on the surface, but is extremely fucked up underneath. The kind of magic only the likes of Roald Dahl was able to accomplish. Give it a read if you haven't. Kensuke's Kingdom by Michael Morpurgo. The beginning, I will admit, was kind of weak, but once that part was over, holy shit, this book is amazing. I fell in love with the relationship the main character built with the man he meets in this story. The man gives off this very nice mystery and can be a massive piece of shit to our main character. However, this book does something that I think a lot of stories tend to miss, making a character seem unlikable at first, but turn them into this sympathetic, really tragic character that eventually opens up to our protagonist in a brilliant way. This book, if you boil it down to its core, is a very uneventful story, but the characters were just so likable and worked off each other so well that I never cared. Just being in these characters' company was enough to make me love this book. It's an amazing survival story that really tugs at the heartstrings, and is a story I won't be forgetting anytime soon. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I don't know. I think I'm kind of cheating when I'm adding this book to the list, as I technically didn't read it. I just listened to the audiobook twice. But honestly, I think the narrator made this book 10 times better. This story was able to perfectly combine both Greek mythology and the modern day in a way that feels so natural that they seem to just go hand in hand. It's like adding barbecue sauce and ketchup. It's not as bad as you think. Stuff like Olympus moving to New York because it's the most powerful place of the time, or the way some gods evolve with the times, are small stuff that make me appreciate the amount of attention to detail Rick had when making this world. Combine all this with some nice characters, well-written action, and very nice use of Greek monsters, and you've got yourself a brilliant first book that establishes the world brilliantly and tells a very good story that's very nicely paced. It's just too bad the movies were shit. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. I didn't want this part to just be flooded with Harry Potter as I love all of them to death, so I decided to boil it down to just one book, and for me, Goblet of Fire is overall my favorite Harry Potter book. This book was just amazing to read from beginning to end. The Vegas fuck beginning, the Quidditch World Cup, and no, I didn't like that part just because I'm Irish. Though that was a big factor. The Triwizard Tournament, the character arcs, and the bittersweet ending, this book was just a roller coaster ride that was just perfect for me. The reason why I enjoyed this book far more than the others is because of how different everything was. This was the book that was to transition Harry Potter from being lighthearted and sometimes dark into a full-on serious series with hardly any comedy. And I believe Goblet of Fire was able to do that transition so damn nicely while also telling a very different story to what we're used to. The way the Triwizard Tournament was used to greatly enhance the plot was beyond superb. I love the way the whole thing was structured so it happened over the span of the school year. The riddles the candidates had to solve to get a hint about the challenges up ahead were very clever, and the challenges themselves were fucking awesome in their own ways, which leads to a very intense last few chapters. I believe that this book was able to perfectly combine all the usual stuff we see in Harry Potter and all the stuff involving the tournament in a perfectly balanced way, making sure one thing didn't take over the other in quality. Overall, I think that this book is J.K. Rowling's best book in the series. The rest are masterpieces in their own regard, but for me, Goblet of Fire left the biggest impact on me when I finally put the book down. I've read the book front to back 6 times at this point, and I'm sure to give this book another read in the distant future. Oh boy, this part was really difficult. I've been expanding my consumption of video games a lot recently, and the fact that I could only pick 5 was really hard to do. So to make this list easier for me, I've decided to pick just one game out of each franchise, so this part will not just be littered with Mario and Sonic.
My vengeance ends now.
God of War 3. Holy fuck, these games are awesome. I've never had so much testosterone flow through my veins until I played the God of War series, and God of War 3 was the pinnacle of my enjoyment. It is a game that focuses solely on the hack and slash parts of the God of War series, and it does it so beautifully with more combos, more weapons, and deaths that are more brutal and gory than ever. Forever quenching my thirst for blood. The times where the game has puzzles are mainly there so you can take a breather from all the intense action that takes up like 90% of this game. At maximum, this game gives you like 10 minutes to catch your breath, and you're straight back into the action with either hordes of enemies or facing bosses that are easily the best in the series. From the mighty Hercules to the Titan Kronos, these bosses are all so memorable and are so damn fun to take down. I don't think I ever got such a kick out of just beating the shit out of everything that moves, and God of War 3 always made me feel like an absolute tank when I was tearing down walls of enemies. This was a fantastic final chapter in the Greek story, and I'm looking forward to getting God of War to see what it has in store. Hey, that rhymed. Kingdom Hearts. This was a game I played alongside a friend who wanted me to get into the series for a good while, and even though she gave me so much shit for being bad at the game despite her playing it 20 times and me just fucking once, I still really enjoyed myself. This game was the perfect balance of combat and platforming. While I found the unresponsive jump to be a bit frustrating at first, I eventually got used to it and was able to enjoy the game for what it was. And my god, a game where you actually have to fight enemies using some kind of brain power rather than just mashing buttons? Holy shit! Combine all that with striking visuals, great level design, fantastic bosses, and very memorable characters, and you've got yourself a very solid game. I find it so baffling that this game was able to combine the worlds of Disney and Final Fantasy so well. It's a combination I never thought in a million years would ever work, but they somehow found a way which was really impressive and made sense to the story. And yes, I quite liked the plot in this game. I love how a lot of things were shrouded in mystery while also having that lighthearted Disney feel to the narrative. While Kingdom Hearts 2 went along and raped the simple plot with a 10-foot dildo, for what it was a satisfying story with a lovely bittersweet ending. A solid first game that I recommend anybody to check out. Sonic Unleashed. Yes, I'm one of those faggots that think this game is the best in the franchise, and while I can perfectly see why someone would not like this game, I still think it's fantastic. Everything about this game just screams Sonic to me. From the levels, the lighthearted story, and the great character interactions. I liked the friendship Sonic and Chip had throughout this game, which made the ending all the more bittersweet. Did I mention I have a thing for bittersweet endings? The gameplay Sonic Unleashed Presents is split in two, daytime stages and nighttime stages. The daytime stages are just phenomenal. This is Sonic at his fastest, with him running through levels like they're nothing, and yet somehow doesn't feel automated to me. You have very decent control over Sonic, and you have tons of moves at your disposal, which the game highly recommends you to master all of them, and once you do, that's where the real fun begins. Not to leave out that the level's layout is absolutely perfect for a game like this. They even made the 2D sections fun. Like, god damn. And here we come to the nighttime stages. While I perfectly see the obvious flaws the Werehog levels have and can see very clearly why someone would not like these stages, I was one of the few people that really enjoyed the Werehog stages. I liked the slower pace of the levels, the platforming was mostly decent despite having some bullshit here and there, and I personally found the combat to be very fun. Yes, it was dull at the start, but once you start upgrading Sonic's strength and abilities, that's where the nighttime stages get really fun for me. It's no God of War, but I still had a lot of fun. And Heavenly Jesus riding a bicycle, the visuals. This is easily the best looking Sonic game, hands down. I've never seen Sonic this expressive and lively in my life, and his quick movements combining with Jason Griffith's greatest performance as the character was just amazing to watch. The animation quality this game has is like watching a high-budget animated movie that you could control. Seriously, look at how expressive these characters are. What the fuck? Everything from the beautiful levels that are packed with detail, the wonderful day and night lighting that gives this game so much more atmosphere, and what is possibly the best art style Sonic has ever done, gave this game so much personality and made every country you went to so good. And personally, I really like the design of the Werehog. There's just something about the large upper body, the white ends on his quills, and the badass spiky shoes that really resonated with me, and I can't really explain why. I just think it's an awesome look. And considering what we could have gotten, yeah, I think this look was the best choice. This is the Sonic game that many people go back to and see as a game being so close yet so far, but for me, I got the best of both worlds, making this easily my favorite Sonic game. Super Mario Odyssey. I don't think I was ever so hyped for a game in my damn life. This game was basically the only reason why I got a Nintendo Switch in the first place, and oh my god, I love this console to death. I came into this game with so much enthusiasm, it rivaled my happiness when Galaxy 2 came out, and I'm happy to say that the 5 months of waiting was totally worth it. I loved how this game was able to suck me into its world almost instantaneously, with a Tim Burton looking ass world that was a very nice tutorial before you began your journey. And once that journey started, I didn't want it to end. This game is just the epitome of fantastic exploration and pinpoint accurate platforming. Odyssey lets you develop your own style of platforming, and it's only in a few situations where you have to play by the game's rules, but aside from that, how you get the moons and in what order you get them is entirely up to you, and that's what made this adventure so memorable. Nearly everything you do in this game is rewarded with lots of treasures if you ever decide to get creative and explore some of the most obscure places on each map, which led to me getting tons of moons by complete accident because I was too busy exploring the levels rather than focusing on the plot. And holy shit, these levels are so pretty! Odyssey is hands down the most atmospheric levels Mario has ever had, with him traveling to freezing deserts, lush forests, bustling cities, and even a Japanese version of Bowser's Castle, easily my favorite level in this game. Super Mario Odyssey is the perfect example of a game where the journey is far better than the destination, but that's where Odyssey is at its best. It's an unforgettable experience that took what we love about Mario so much and showed the world that Nintendo still got it. Crash Bandicoot 2. This game was the game where once I picked up the controller, I couldn't put it down until I completed the game, and while I still haven't 100% to this game yet, it is still a game I had so much fun playing. Now you may be asking me how could I put this game over the masterpiece that was Super Mario Odyssey? Well, considering that this is all down to opinion, and my opinion is far superior to all you peasants, Crash 2 was the game that made me feel like I found the game that perfectly matched my skill of platforming. The game was the perfect difficulty for me, and while the game kicked my ass more times than I'm proud to admit, I always felt like I was improving every time I died. And once I conquered the thing that was giving me so much trouble, I got this massive sense of accomplishment that never faded away throughout my whole playthrough. And god damn it, I just love how this game feels and looks. The animation, while being very dated by today's standard, has so much charm and heart put into it. With Crash having some very dopey yet lively expressions, and the level design is just spectacular in its structure, textures, and the beautiful saturation of the backgrounds and characters, giving this game a very nice identity. And the platforming in this game is just so perfect. Crash has very nice weight in his jumps, with the slide being the best thing to ever happen to the series. His run is the perfect speed, so he's never too fast or too slow, and the level perfectly contrasts Crash and all of his abilities, making every level so much fun to play, from the usual platforming to the high-speed chases. This game struck so many chords with me, and it's the game that has stuck with me the most. I have hope Crash can have this kind of charm in his future, but for now, Crash 2 will do perfectly. Wow, a subject that should have been very easy for me, however I realized all the artists that I love so dearly are fan artists. Fun. So instead of doing 5 artists for this part, I think I'm just gonna stick with 4 artists, whose art styles really stuck with me personally. Quentin Blake. Yeah, I'm not just gonna be talking about comic artists here. I know a good book illustrator when I see one. Quentin Blake, if you don't know, is the artist who drew all the pictures in all of Roald Dahl's books, and just look at these drawings. These drawings just have so much love and passion put into them, and the childish sketchiness style of his work fits perfectly with Roald Dahl's books. Because even though they're still kids' books, Dahl is still quite the sadistic man, and Quentin's drawings showed that dark tone perfectly. Just look at his drawings in the Witches book. If these weren't in Dahl's book, they would fit quite nicely in a horror novel. What more can I say about him? He's a very good artist with a very unique art style that fitted perfectly with Roald Dahl's books, and made the experience reading them so much better. Also, the other drawings that don't involve Roald Dahl are still pretty damn good. Tracy Yardley. Yes, there's a Sonic artist on here, leave me alone. I never read the Archie comics or any Sonic comics period, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate the art. While I can appreciate the other artists' art styles for what they are, Tracy's art is easily my favorite. He is so fucking skilled at drawing the Sonic cast. He has this amazing skill of going off model with most of his drawings, but still gives off great expressions and does lots of fluid posing. I don't think I've ever seen the Sonic characters have this much personality, ever. Sonic is easily my favorite character he draws, and he's able to bring out the asshole in Sonic and multiply it by 10. God, he's so good! And I really love his designs for Archie-only characters, my favorite being easily Dark Enerjak. Holy shit, it's so anime, I love it! And god damn, his comic layout is outstanding! There is never one page this guy makes that ever looks similar to another page he's created, meaning that every page has a lot of personality, and the way the characters often pop out of their panels is just amazing. This man was the guy who wanted me to keep drawing Sonic, and he's the main contributor to my Sonic art style. Massive props to you, man. Akira Toriyama. The creator of one of the most influential manga in shonen's history, Toriyama has gone down in legend, and he has an art style that is easily one of my favorites. From his first panel in Dragon Ball to the last page of Dragon Ball Z, the evolution of his art when you see it back to back is astonishing. How did Goku go from this to this? It blows my mind. Everything this man draws has this beautiful cartoony look with his simple backgrounds, his humor, and his wonderful use of expressions on his characters. I think he's a wonderful character designer, with the looks of the characters perfectly capturing their personalities at the point they're in the story, while also evolving to fit their development throughout the manga, which I adore. But easily the best thing that Toriyama draws is really no surprise to anyone. His action scenes are just phenomenal. His drawings have a ton of weight to them, making every blow seem really powerful. The layout of each page is superb and very well planned and executed. And despite how over the top the action is, he draws them in a way that they're very easy to follow and are very easy on the eyes. Which is something that is really hard to do, and Toriyama does it in a way that seems natural. He's a legend in shonen manga for a reason, and he is certainly a very good artist who clearly knew what he was doing. Junji Ito. Where do I even start with his work? Junji has probably the best understanding about what makes someone disturbed, and he's able to make turning the page to see what's on the other side something only the most foolish people would do. This guy has the ingenious ability to make his monsters so out of this world but look so real that while I have my mouth open in a silent scream when I saw them, I was also hit with so much curiosity and wonder, making me look at them closer to see all the details he put into them. The monsters that Junji's created are some of the most disgusting, unnerving, and horrifying creatures I've ever laid eyes on. He's even able to get something as tame as a house cat and a spiral and turn them into a thing of nightmares. And even when there's no monster and the story is just about a character slowly losing their mind, Junji was still able to get me so invested in his world because of the great pacing of his stories and how beautiful his drawings are. When Junji begins a story, his drawings have this alien beauty to them, something that you are used to seeing, but makes you uncomfortable when you look at it, as there's something about his art style that seems off. Something out of the ordinary, but you just can't put your finger on it. And once the horror kicks in and the monsters start showing up, holy shit, the art steps up tremendously. His inking and the use of black is so beautifully clean while also having a bit of a sketchy feel to it, making every drawing seem different and really lets the horror sink into your mind. His shading is another level of beautiful, giving his drawings much more dimension and makes the monsters really pop out of the pages. He does this very clever thing of shading the characters far less than he does with the monsters, so that way your eye is drawn towards the abomination that he's created, making it far more memorable. I don't know what kind of drugs Junji had to take in order to create some of the abominations of nature he's created, but damn, he's got a seriously fucked mind and I love it. He is a master of horror and he's able to tell some of the most horrifying stories using his amazing artwork. Look up his story Uzumaki to see how much of a genius this man really is. I love myself some good music. Listening to music is something I do almost all the time. When I'm not browsing through YouTube, doing school, or questioning my past, I always have my earphones in listening to music. It's a pastime that always makes me feel really relaxed, and I recommend everyone to do it. But which musicians and bands do I think are the best of the best? Well, here are my favorites.
Whatever it takes, 'cause I love the adrenaline in my veins.
Imagine Dragons. This is probably the only mainstream band whose songs I legitimately enjoy. I guess I do have to thank Ireland for this, as their songs never really get so popular that they play the songs over and over on the radio, which kills every song in like an instant. But even if they did, I wouldn't care. These guys' songs are amazing. Every track they created are songs from the heart, with beautiful voice work, tons and tons of energy, and have very catchy beats that make them easily stand out from the crowd. I also find their music videos to be very visually pleasing. They have this lovely abstract look to them, from some looking like works of art to some being special. 3 songs that I would recommend you to check out are Radioactive, Warriors, and Believer. The last song has been stuck in my head for ages and I'm still not tired of listening to it. Skillet. I was at the stage in my life where I went through the cursed Night Chorus good phase, and while I was serving my sentence in the 8th circle of high-pitched hell, I happened to come across the Nightcore version of Skillet's song Monster, and I was curious to see what the original song sounded like. What met my ears was blood-pumping rock music that unleashed the inner edgelord in me, and damn it, I love it. Each singer in this band has a very good voice, and I love how their singing intertwines with each other so naturally. Also, some of their guitar solos are fucking amazing. Some songs that you should give a listen to would be Monster, Awaken Alive, and Hero. Three Days Grace. Before Skillet cemented my love for edgy rock music, 3 Days Grace was the band that made me jump into the genre head first. And whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I do not care. These guys have some kick-ass tunes. I love the energy, I love the beats, the vocals are top-notch, the guitars are awesome, and I find the lyrics to be so passionate. A factor in their music which I always respect. Songs that I would recommend you to listen to would be Animal I've Become, Gone Forever, and Pain. Crush 40. This is rock music at its cheesiness, and my god do I love this band's work. Whenever I pick up a Sonic game and hear Crush 40's orgasmic songs blast out of the speakers, I get this massive rush of adrenaline, and their music is easily a factor in some of my most memorable moments in my gaming life. While most of their music is quite upbeat and lighthearted, when the music gets dark, it's a beautiful blend of badass and stupid that I just have to smile whenever the music kicks in. Though I will say, their songs outside of Sonic are still very top-notch songs, and I would recommend you to check them out. And thus, my 3 suggestions to you are One of Those Days, Rise Again, and Light of the Day. 3 songs that are not related to Sonic, but you should still check out as they're still way too good to be ignored.
What about about sunrise? What about rain?
Michael Jackson. Words alone cannot describe how much this man has affected my childhood. His music was the only thing I had in common with the rest of my family, and he was the reason I ever got to bond with one of my favorite cousins. Memories that I will never forget. Michael's story to fame was a very bumpy ride, with its downs greatly outweighing its ups. But despite his rough childhood, Michael was still able to keep going, with his songs striking a chord with everyone, and he has gone down in legend as the King of Pop, a title I believe is very well deserved. His songs Beat It, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Smooth Criminal have very energetic beats, while songs like Man in the Mirror and Earth Song are very beautiful in their tone and have some of Michael's best vocals he's ever done. His singing voice is a work of art in itself. His range is astonishing, he has this contagious energy when he sings fast songs, and when he hits those high notes, he grabs them by the balls and shows them who's boss. And his dancing. He gives the words passion and determination a whole new meaning to them. Look at how much his body moves and contorts in his music videos. Look at the speed and energy put into each and every thrust. He was one of the few people to create his own dance moves, moves that many people try and fail to replicate. You know exactly which move I'm talking about. I would say check out his songs, but if you ever had a radio, then chances are you've already heard all of them. He's a legend whose death was a tragedy to many people, but his songs will live on forever, and they only get better every time I listen to them. Since YouTube is like my life at this point, I've seen a lot of YouTubers while I've been on this site. While most of the YouTube videos I come across are mainly below average, there are some content creators that I find to be some of the most entertaining and funny people on the planet. So here are my top 5.
But I want to make this message as Jacob, not as Weast, because sometimes we're not the same person. I'm a gamer.
Weast. I discovered this meme channel by complete accident, mainly because I was expecting it to be just another cancerous meme channel. But what I was greeted to was a channel with very good structure, fantastic editing, jokes that are very well timed, was able to dance between the line of irony and seriousness, and uses memes in a way that's actually funny, which I really like about his content. Every video this guy makes is a piece of meta genius, and I love how invested Weast is in every video he makes. His videos have a kind of Vsauce vibe to them, while also making a few videos in a documentary style. Two styles I think really suit his sense of humor, and his execution is beyond hilarious. Some videos I'd recommend you to check out would be Meta Memes, Curse.jpg, and my personal favorite, If Two Gay Guys Kiss, It Isn't Gay. It's just...
But instead of looking at himself, Kevin likes to blame the world.
Himself? The world!
Chris Ray Gun, a political commentator with wacky editing, has an edgy sense of humor that rivals Shadow the Hedgehog, and can actually make decent points during his videos? Sign me the fuck up, dude. I was on a watching spree of anti-feminist channels for a while back in the day. I watched Shoe on Head, Some Black Guy, Blair White, you know, all that good stuff. Then I saw this in my recommended, and it intrigued me. And once I clicked on it...
Take 45, take 41, take 97, take fuck my ass. You got a friend in me. How's it going, everybody? Chris Ray Gun here. Did you get the joke? I'm wrapping myself in a green screen because we're gonna be talking about Lacey Green.
I have found the perfect commentary channel. Not only was Chris able to keep my attention throughout the entire video, as mainly most commentary channels are boring as fuck, but he was able to mix the perfect amount of seriousness amongst all the wild shenanigans in his videos, which made the content far more memorable as a result. His style of editing is very flashy and in your face, with lots of jokes being solely in the visuals, which when done right, are fucking hilarious. Videos I recommend you to watch would be his Glasses Off series to see the serious side of him, and the Ray Gun Recap, which is just full of memes and great editing. The Dom. You can always trust a Brit to be very entertaining with a format like this. Dom is a book reviewer who reviews tons of books from many genres in a very detailed manner while also being very easy to understand, does very critical and informative reviews on recent movies, and has a series called Lost in Adaptation, where he looks at a movie and analyzes how good it is as an adaptation to the book. And once I watched more of his content, I became his sub in a heartbeat. What makes me love Dom's content so much is his delivery. He has this very formal yet childlike voice which seems very informative and engages me very well. Almost like that one teacher in school who can make almost anything sound interesting, a factor I really enjoy. I love the way his editing is quite simple yet effective, with him jumping around the background so the editing doesn't get boring, and I love the backgrounds he uses for his green screen effects. All of this is combined perfectly with his comedic timing that is just golden, which can make some of his gags, while short, very funny to watch. Some of his best work in my opinion are Lost in Adaptation, the Harry Potter-a-thon, his Ready Player One reviews of both the book and the film, and his 50 Shades of Grey video. It's pure British rage and I love it.
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It's freedom like you, here we fuck!
Video Game Donkey. This man is the epitome of video game content. His reviews have lots of information and great criticism, and I love the way he structures them. His I guess highlights of his Let's Plays of games are comedy gold, with perfectly timed gags and editing that makes me sometimes cry I laugh so hard. And his criticism of stuff like remakes and video game critics are very well made. Donkey just has this feeling of passion in his videos, like every video was made with 100% effort, and everything seems like it's perfectly planned and the punchlines always hit their marks. And his points are very flowing and natural in his videos. I'm surprised to see that most of Donkey's videos don't even reach the 10-minute mark, which just goes to show that he truly cares about the quality of his content, and if the video is only 5 minutes, then so be it. I highly recommend you to watch his reviews on Super Mario Odyssey and Sonic Forces, his Dark Souls content, and his videos on criticizing game critics and difficulty in video games.
This was me 4 months ago, back when I still had hope, back when I still believed.
Super Eye Patch Wolf. This was a channel that was one of the channels that I discovered because a friend showed me some of his content. It was a day where I was hanging out with Siphon and we were just doing our usual stuff, drawing, playing video games, and talking about life, where she said to me the anime reviews I do reminded her a lot of Super Eye Patch Wolf. So me, being curious, asked if we could watch one of his videos and she gladly accepted the offer, probably to get away from me talking about my train wreck of emotions, and she put on one of his videos. I believe it was the Yuri on Ice video, and I remembered absolutely loving it, and I feel honored that Siphon was comparing me to this guy. Looking back on it, I'm sure she just said that to me so I could feel better about myself, but either ways, thank you Siphon, I really appreciated the compliment. Once I started checking out his content myself, I had a full-on marathon binge watching this guy's videos, and despite his content mostly reaching the 15-minute mark, there was not 1 second in any of his videos where I felt any ounce of boredom. I'm being serious. The way his editing, his voice, and the tone of his videos all combine together into the final product, his videos are close to documentary levels of quality, with tons of great information, fantastic use of images and footage combined with beautiful use of effects, almost like his videos are letting us step into his mind, which I think is beyond impressive. But what makes his content stand out to me from other review channels is the way he writes his scripts. The way he words his points throughout his videos has this tone that he's really speaking from the heart while also keeping a level head, and is able to illustrate his points in a way that's easy to understand while also sounding very professional. The way he talks about animation, characters, and stories are just mind-blowing, and he can make anything sound like the best thing on earth. A vibe that I think all reviewers should have when it comes to reviewing media. And the amount of passion his voice has when he says everything is something that really sticks with me. I'm not sure whether it's his voice or that he's a really good actor, but the way he talks in his videos is what makes them so brilliant and is the thing that sticks out with me the most after I watch his content. There are so many videos that I would highly recommend you to watch, but a few that really stuck out to me are Why Perfect Blue is Terrifying, How Media Scares Us, the work of Junji Ito, The Fall of the Simpsons, How It Happened, and why you should watch or read Berserk. This guy is a master of his craft and he deserves all the subs he has. From his reviews to his discussions, all of his videos are definitely worth your time. And there you have it. That's all the media that I love and had an impact on me in my personal life. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, as I personally had a ton of fun writing the script. This script took me about a week to write, as there was just so much media that I wanted to cover and share my feelings on, and everything just came so naturally to me while I was writing it, which was an amazing feeling. You guys have no idea how fun it is to write about stuff that you love. I don't know, there's just something about sucking the dicks of other creators that just makes me feel really happy inside. So now, to spread this positivity, I would like to nominate both Siphon and Sergeant Major Mario to make a video of them talking about media they love. And then once they're done doing that, I would like them to nominate 2 other people to do their videos, and so on. This idea is heavily inspired by Your Movie Sucks and his childhood trauma videos, and I want to see if I can also make a playlist showing all the videos people made about their favorite things. Siphon and Sergeant of course don't have to do this if they don't want to, it's just an idea that I thought would be pretty cool. But alas, my name is Manga Artist, and I hope you have a great day.